RAND Act of 2026. It's legislation that I hope we can move across the floor. It was probably, I would say, in Lindsey's last days, the thing he cared most passionately about. It's something he's worked on for the past year, and I think we all, both Democrats and Republicans, realize not only would this be a great tribute to him and his work and his legacy on national security matters, but it would also be something that would really give the president a tool at his disposal to try and end the war in Ukraine. Ukraine is now the largest conflict, literally, since World War II in Europe. And the Ukrainian people have been resilient, worked really, really hard to try and bring this war to an end. But as long as Putin has Russian oil and gas money, he's able to continue this war. And what this sanctions bill would do would basically cut that off. And Lindsey also cared passionately, as you know, about the Middle East. And so the sanctions on Iran, I think, complement what's in the underlying bill. But the fact is there are 62 co-sponsors on the bill. We had a motion to proceed vote on it yesterday that got 86 votes in the Senate. It is a bipartisan bill. It's an important bill for this country and for our national security interests. And it's something that I hope we can proceed with and ultimately pass, get across the finish line here in the next few days.
Yeah. Would you advise the Justice Department to listen to the concerns of John Cornyn and make it clear in writing that this weaponization fund is dead once and for all?
I think that that's an issue between right now the White House and Senators Cornyn and Tillis, but yeah, I would encourage them to sit down, which I think they are, and trying to come to a resolution there so that the markup can continue tomorrow and we can get Todd Blanche ready for the floor.
It takes 60 votes to break a filibuster on a contempt of Congress resolution. Are you for contempt of Congress for Anthony Fauci, and based on that, could that get through?
I think it's first off, it'll be a question for Senator Paul, as the chairman of the HISGAT committee, and the members of that committee. But certainly his answers today were completely inadequate. And I think that's certainly an option. I think that's option that ought to be available to us. What he did today in front of that committee was inexcusable.
Senator,
yes.
Some of your colleagues coming out of the chairman's meeting today said the Senate is simply not ready to do a budget vote around the next week. After hearing from your colleagues, is that your assessment, or what do you plan to do next week?
I said all along that this is a budget resolutions and reconciliation bills are very challenging. This one is no exception. And some of the things that are being contemplated, being done in this reconciliation bill or in this budget resolution legislation are things that could implicate a number of committees. Some suggestions have been up to 12 or 13 or 15, in which case all of the amendments offered on the floor would be germane to the bill, making them 50 vote amendments instead of 60. And obviously that creates an uphill challenge in terms of trying to ensure that you have 50 not only to get on the bill, 50 to defeat every amendment that comes across, but then also 50 to ultimately pass it. So the discussion we had was a fulsome one, and we'll continue to listen to our colleagues to figure out what the path forward is. But all of us would love to see a solution for the Save America Act, to actually get some of that enacted into law. And the budget resolution presents a potential opportunity to do that, in addition to providing much needed funding for the military. And so we're taking a hard look at it. But we also know we have to have 50 votes. And at the moment, as I've said before, we're probably not there, but we'll continue the conversation, see where it goes. We've got about a week to think about it.
Are you still planning to proceed with the August recess now that our 12 of your Republican colleagues are calling to stay behind on the recess and work through getting that passed?
I'm for anything that we can do to get the Save America Act passed. What I always ask, the question I always ask is, what is your picture of victory at the end? What is the end game here? And if, in fact, staying here for the month of August means that we assume at some point there will be 10 Democrats to cross over and vote for the Save America Act, I think we can stay here till Christmas. That's not going to happen. And the other thing I would say about that is that there aren't going to be 50 votes to get rid of the legislative filibuster. So if budget reconciliation is a path forward, if we conclude that there is actually a chance to get an outcome or a result there, I'm open to do it. And I think all of our colleagues would be open to staying around here if that were true. But I think that we have to see, first of all, that can be proven to be the case. And but I don't think having a Congress and Senate sitting around here for the month of August in quorum calls or having to vote on Democrat amendments is probably a good use of anybody's time. So we will see and see where the conversation goes. Yeah.
And do you think, are you comfortable with your members leaving town at the end of next week, given where we are at in Iran, this back and forth situation of our troops in harm's way? Are you comfortable now at this point?
Well, all of us stay very dialed in, as you would expect, no matter where we are, whether we're here in session or not. And obviously there's a lot of attention being paid by our members to what's happening in Iran, and of course regular conversations and contact with the administration about the path forward. But obviously we want success there. We think we achieved a high level of military success there. The question on the Strait of Hormuz is something that obviously the President and his team are trying to continue to negotiate, and hopefully they'll land an outcome or a solution there in the near future. But I think for all intents and purposes, most of our members believe that the President is right to, one, try to end Iran's nuclear program, two, to end their conventional weapon program that acts as a shield to their nuclear program and also acts as a menace and a terrorist threat to everybody in the region. And I think they've had a high level of success doing that. The question remains, can we also find a path to success economically to get the shipping lanes and strait back open? And that's a conversation that is continuing to be had with the administration and their counterparts in Iran and other countries in the Middle East, and we are watching it closely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Folks, quiet. Thank you. Thank you for Senator Murray for joining us today. Now look, the Trump presidency is just a disaster. There's no other way to put it. Look at the numbers. 72% disapprove of his war on Iran. 79% disapprove of what he's done on gas prices. 73% says he has the wrong priorities. And the number of Americans who believe that Trump hasn't done enough to bring down costs has reached 71%. Trump has completely lost the trust of the American people. When the overwhelming majority of Americans say you're taking the country in the wrong direction, you better change course or prepare to lose the election. Trump and his party need to take the hint or take a hike come November. On Iran and the war, let's touch on his unpopular, failed, and disastrous war. Trump's busy twiddling his thumbs without any plan for how to end this reckless war, while our service members are facing down barrage after barrage of Iranian missiles, of Iranian drones. Trump is more concerned about protecting himself from the repercussions of his failed war in Iran than protecting our troops who are in harm's way. As we promised, we're going to make them vote and vote and vote. We will soon force another vote on our War Powers resolution to end this aimless war and bring our troops home. Every second Trump prolongs the war, our service members' lives are at risk. Senate Republicans, stand up for our troops, not for the president who sent them into war without a plan, without a mission. And finally, on government funding, where Patty will speak. Democrats have been clear from the start. We want to fund the government, avoid a shutdown, and pass strong bipartisan appropriation bills that improve people's lives. Bipartisan negotiations are ongoing. Senate Democrats are working in good faith to reach an agreement and keep the appropriations process moving forward. We're fighting for a bipartisan funding package, not partisan bills, that bankroll Trump's war while leaving working peoples behind. Any CR must be bipartisan. It must keep the government open without abandoning the needs of working families or give Trump a blank check for his terrible agenda. There is a responsible path forward. Senate Democrats, led by Patty, are ready to take it, but Republicans must meet us in the middle.
Well, let's talk about priorities for this year, because Trump certainly has told us what his are. A $1.5 trillion war budget. That is nearly a $500 billion increase. For families here at home, for things like housing and child care, a 10% cut. Well, apparently $1.5 trillion isn't enough because last week Pete Hegseth came back demanding $70 billion for a war that is spiraling out of control and driving gas prices through the roof. Couldn't tell us how the war would end, just that he wanted more money for it. No strategy, no endgame, no justification, and Trump has promised us a deal for months. Every time Trump says an end to the war he should have never started is around the corner, the bill for his forever war goes bigger. Just trust me is not a strategy, and it sure isn't worth $70 billion of taxpayer money. Congress is not an ATM for Trump's forever wars. Taxpayers do not want us to rubber stamp a blank check for Trump to drop bombs overseas while healthcare costs are sky high here at home. Republicans might choose war and defense contractors as their top funding priorities, but Democrats actually care about the families here at home. So instead of telling the president to kick rocks, Republicans in Congress have been pushing hard to give Trump everything he wants, a massive increase in war funding while families get left behind. Sorry, but no. I've worked in good faith to try and land a bipartisan top-line funding agreement to ensure that we do invest in our families, not defense contractors. But time and again, Republicans have made clear they cannot be where they have been for years on parity. The compromise that has guided many funding deals, which provides roughly equal defense increases for defense and non-defense, this time Republicans want to deliver over $4 new in defense for every dollar in non-defense. And because of that, my Democratic colleagues and I have been clear we will not accept their top line and will instead continue to push for a fair, bipartisan top line like the ones we reached the last 3 years, which allowed us to draft and pass good bipartisan bills. As families are getting crushed by higher costs and as we're about to head over the infrastructure cliff October 1st, when roughly over $65 billion in critical annual funding from the bipartisan infrastructure law runs dry, we should be delivering major new investments to help our families get by, not supersizing Trump's war budget. Democrats are at the table. We are ready to write serious bipartisan bills that lower costs and keep this country safe. But we will not shortchange America's families to bankroll Donald Trump's forever war. Now, at this point, because of everything I just discussed, we will need more time to get our funding bills done. No one wants a shutdown in October, so I have been working with Chair Collins to prepare a CR that takes us into December, and we will fix the problems with the bill that the House Republicans drafted and passed last week. Good bipartisan work continues on that, and you can bet that as we work on annual funding for the year ahead, my Democratic colleagues and I are going to keep pushing to actually make life more affordable and to spend the America's and people's hard-earned tax dollars reinvesting in our families and communities across America instead of writing Trump a blank check to threaten war crimes halfway around the world.
Thank you, Patty, for your great work. Go ahead, Newt. Go ahead. No, not you. We had a great meeting this morning. We're going to be working together to win the seat, beat Susan Collins, and take back the Senate.
Leader Schumer.
Yes.
Schumer, the Democratic Socialists of America recently released their new platform. One of the things in that platform is to abolish the Senate and create a new unicameral House in Congress. Is this something Democratic Socialist candidates have been winning in races across the country? Is this something that has a place, this type of policy position?
The bottom line is Democrats from one end of the spectrum to the other are going to be working to defeat Trump, to bring down costs, to go after his corruption, and to end the chaos. Yes. I couldn't.
Republicans have been pulling out the stops to court Senator John Fetterman. How do you feel like he's done as a Democratic senator? Do you want him to stay on your subject?
Yes, and he is a very good member of Congress. The people in our caucus very much like him and respect him, and we're a big tent party. We can have a lot of different views in that party. Yes.
Now that Jay Clayton is confirmed.
Now that
Jay Clayton is confirmed, will Senate Democrats submit to reauthorizing Section 702 by send out a bill Pulte will be out?
Look, well, first we have to make sure Pulte is out, and second, many of us want to get 702 enacted, but it needs some reforms. Thank you.